Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom, the walking, talking encyclopedia. Saliva, the start of the sugar digestion. My mission, the impeccable wisdom, knowing which everything is fully known. My greatest discovery, Divyank, the divine design of nature, with which the perfect objects are designed and created. Divyank is the reward of 60 years of ingested, integrated education. Impeccable wisdom is enlightening, and integrated knowledge is empowering. Now let's start with the prime function of digestive system. Prime function of digestive system is a continuous supply of water, nutrients, which mean carbohydrate, proteins, lipids, electrolytes, which is sodium, potassium, and other calcium, etc., and other vital ingredients like vitamins and minerals and hormones which are required for integrated homeostasis, perfect physical health, emotional health, mental health, religious health, and spiritual integration. These are the prime functions of digestive system which we have to understand, and once that is understood, we can make optimum use of human life, come what may. Ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and defecation are the executive functions, not the prime functions as told by the books. From that angle, now let's move on to the first stage. The whole nervous system of digestive system is designed right in the middle, starting with mouth, to the lips, to the tongue, to the esophagus, nasopharynx, etc., right up to the anus, how it goes. Those things everybody knows about it. You've been taught from school, college to the university. I don't think I need to go detail into that at all. What is more important at this particular juncture is to remember that digestive system has been designed as one of the prime functions, and it has also been provided a special system beyond even sympathetic and parasympathetic system to take care of it unconsciously, subconsciously, even when you are comatose. For that way, pacemaker in digestive system, pacemaker in heart, and pacemaker in uterus are three important parts, which I have already spoken again and again and again to emphasize that is something which nobody talks. Let me talk about it. From that angle, we will talk about pacemakers only from stomach, not in the mouth. But the description of anatomy and physiology has been given very well here. Let's stick to that. Another point which comes to my mind is in the mouth, it is saliva which is neutral taste. Stomach, it is acidic. In small intestine, it is alkaline. Carbohydrate, proteins, and lipids are designed accordingly. From that angle, let's go on to the next stage to understand what is the function of teeth. Lips are very important. It's got many multi-dimensional things. We'll not go into detail at this part is concerned, but let's stick to the teeth. Very clearly, you have deciduous teeth, childhood teeth, and temporary milky teeth. There are 22. 1 plus 1 plus 2 into 4 is 20. These are the first teeth which are developed, and once they are gone, the permanent teeth come, which are 32. The ratio of 20 into 32 is called golden ratio or Divyank ratio, which I am talking about. Now come to the number of columns is Divyank sequence, a Fibonacci sequence, which is important. Incisor has got one root, canine has got one root, premolar root got two, and molars have got three roots. This is how it is designed. Then the middle portions of the upper teeth, when we smile, give a beautiful smile, is also designed with canine or Divyank ratio only. I think from that angle, let us have very clear that two middle incisors are designed with Divyank ratio only. One point which I want to bring it from Indian wisdom of Ayurveda: drink solid food, convert solid food into liquid form with full grinding and mixing before it is to be absorbed. And liquid should be digested like carbohydrates with alpha amylase of salivary glands and be done with it. This is one lesson which I would like medical students to learn from ancient Indian wisdom and add value to it step by step thereafter. Having done that, let's move on to the next stage, which is important for us to understand what digestive system. Human tongue and taste have been designed with Divyank ratio only. Anterior 61.8034% of the tongue is controlled by chordae tympani of facial nerve. Information is carried to nucleus tractus solitarius in brainstem and then to thalamus and then to insular cortex and neocortex for taste perception. Posterior 38.1966% of the tongue is controlled by posterior part, glossopharyngeal nerve, and taste is bitter, could be bitter. So this has got simple one sensory and motor component, both are done by glossopharyngeal nerve itself. If it is bitter, it's going to be bad, so you can immediately vomit and done with it. Whereas posterior part of epiglottis is by vagus nerve, and all this information go to the nucleus tractus solitarius and then to thalamus and to insular cortex as well as to the neocortex for perception. So that is one point which I want everybody to understand. This is the beauty of whole system as such. Having understood that, we should move on to the next stage of smell and taste. Both are also designed with a nucleus in the nose, nasopharynx, oropharynx and glossopharynx. The whole thing should work in such a way that you can smell clearly, taste clearly, feel clearly and be one with happiness. And for that, close association of these two systems plays very important role. And ideal example is a coffee. Good fragrance of coffee, you would love to taste in such a way that you can enjoy the taste, smell and move on to the higher and higher levels of consciousness. And those things are closely associated with this. And of course, correlation is with the hypothalamus, which I've already spoken about it. Amygdala, hypothalamus, taste, olfactory receptor, bulb, they all work in one unison, and that is the real beauty of it. Having done that, we should move on to the next stage to understand what is the next stage. To understand the whole system of digestive system in the mouth of digestion, let me start with complex starch, fully digested, to be converted into maltose with the alpha amylase, which is produced by salivary glands. Rest of the carbohydrates, which are fructose in nature, lactose, galactose, etc., they do not take part. So here, point very clear, digestion of ingested carbohydrate to be converted into maltose with alpha amylase, and maltose into glucose plus glucose has to be taken into consideration to remember this is what it is. Now, there are three kinds of glands you can see here. Left side you can see parotid gland, which is right in front of the ear. And in this I have also shown the facial nerve, which is superimposing the and of course you can see submaxillary gland and submandibular glands right on the right side bottom. Parotid gland is supplied by glossopharyngeal nerve and it's got watery discharge, and its parotid gland alpha amylase to make sure that digestion of ingested carbohydrate is converted into maltose. Maltose is further converted into glucose plus glucose. Please remember, alpha amylase diastage is primarily digested for that point of view only. We are not talking of the other thing which we'll talk when we come to small intestine, how other carbohydrates are digested or absorbed and assimilated thereafter. Here it is only complex starch digested, converted into maltose with alpha amylase in the mouth and done with it. And these two different nerves, facial and glossopharyngeal, and measure its water by parotid gland, size is big, and there are other one is more of mucus and things like that. So keeping that particular concept in mind, submandibular and submaxillary are designed in such a way that they produce more of a mucus, mucoid, other things, whereas this is more of a watery and washing and cleaning and done with it. So from that angle, understanding both watery content by parotid gland, mucus and other things by submaxillary and mandibular have to be understood very clearly. One is chorda tympani branch of the facial nerve, another is parotid glands of this. And behind that epiglottis is by the vagus nerve, which also I want you to remember plays very important role, and no wonder glossopharyngeal and vagus put together make this part of Vishuddhi chakra purification. And I think that is something which have to be understood very clearly, how these nerves play an important role. So now coming to the parasympathetic nervous system, there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves. Out of 12, only 4 are, 1/3 are into parasympathetic nervous system, which play a very important role in producing the hormones which are essential. From that angle, parotid and glossopharyngeal play a very important role to be understood and kept in mind. Having understood that part of it, now let's move on to the sympathetic part to counter its effect. Sympathetic nervous system, as shown right on the top of this, you can see lacrimal gland, mucous membrane of the nose and palate, sublingual and submandibular glands, they are by chorda tympani, and parotid is by glossopharyngeal on the right side, and corresponding fibers from superior cervical mandibular ganglion of sympathetic put together. But at this particular juncture, let me also bring it to the play. The sympathetic system is designed. There are 28 fibers arise from thoracic 1 to lumbar 2, 14 segments of the spinal cord, 22, and they produce 22 either side, 44 plus 1 ganglion apart, 45. 45 divided by 28 is equal to 1.6071, which is as good as Divyank ratio. Is this a surprise? But it's a design. And that is exactly what I'm trying to show through this system. If you understand Divyank sequence, Divyank ratio, Divyank rectangle, Divyank frequency, you are all understanding a perfect human anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, psychology would be as simple as you want it to be. From that angle, perfect human body is absolutely essential from that point. Having understood that, and I think let's move on to the next stage to understand what exactly does it take place to take it to the next level of consciousness with respect to saliva and other things. Now, having understood very clearly that this is primarily for digestion of sugar, digestion or carbohydrates or glucose. Let's put it this way. Now, in this particular picture, I have shown in the middle 10 stages of glucose digestion. Right at the top, you can see glucose, which is getting converted into glucose 6-phosphate with the help of hyperkinase and G6 enzyme. Left side is glycolysis from glucose right up to lactic acid and pyruvic acid. And right side is from lactic acid, pyruvic acid, gluconeogenesis back to glucose. Both things go side by side in 10 stages. This is again something which I want everybody to understand, that nature had designed everything in 10 stages only. And from that point of view, let's take step by step how things are going. From glucose to glucose 6-phosphate is the first step. Then phosphoglucose isomerase convert glucose 6-phosphate into fructose 6-phosphate. And then also goes to fructose 2,6-biphosphate, and then to phosphate 1,6-biphosphate to the next fourth level, and then go on to glycerolhaldehyde 3-phosphate, which is the first carbon intermediate sugar or triose. That is something which I want everybody to understand. That's the fifth level which is there. From there it goes to 1.3 biphosphoglycerate, then 3-phosphoglycerate, then 2-phosphoglycerate, then phosphoenol pyruvate, and then go to pyruvate, and then go to lactose. Now, remembering this particular thing is very clear how things work out. 3-carbon intermediate sugar is triose, 3-carbon acidic is pyruvic acid, and formula is more or less same, but their functions are very, very different. So, having explained how glucose is converted into fructose and then up to pyruvic acid and lactic acid, and then from lactic acid back to glucose, how things go. So from this angle, you can definitely make out that glucose and fructose are hand and glove. If you're taking glucose and getting converted fructose 6-phosphate, fine. If you're taking fructose itself and getting converted fructose 6-phosphate, is equally good. So what difference does it make? So I don't think there is anything really problem to create. I would definitely have a better combination of fructose rather than have glucose as such. But glucose is one which is used immediately, there's no doubt about it. Let's make that also very clear. So if that is what it is, and I think a healthy balance of glucose and fructose combination to make us fructivorous or frugal in our approach would be absolutely essential to make ourselves perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise and happy 24/7, to be in tune with universal consciousness and be happy with it. Having understood and explained 10 stages of glucose digestion, from glucose to lactic acid and lactase back to glucose, is very essential for me to bring it to everybody that I'm not talking of human anatomy alone, I'm talking about physiology, biochemistry and psychology simultaneously. Having understood this, let's go on to the next stage to make things much more clear in the process. Divine design of glucose homeostasis. Glucose homeostasis is absolutely essential. The perfect glucose level is 100 mg per 100 ml of undiluted water. Blood. 100 to 125 could be the average, which work out to 111 is something which I want everybody. The normal range could be between 80 to 140 milligram, and within this limits things will automatically come back to fasting level to postprandial. Within this level you'll have no problem whatsoever, the top level. Allostate is the second state where lower limit could come to 68 milligram per 100 ml, upper limit 180 milligram per 100 ml. And within this ratio also you could bring back to normal physiological functions provided with the diet control, lifestyle changes without any medicine whatsoever. When you go beyond this 180 to higher level and less than 68 to 42 down, you have a problem of diabetes mellitus which required medication, treatment and otherwise. And that is what I would call it pathostasis. Once you understand what is the normal range, perfect range, normal range, allostatic range and pathostatic range, and how to deal with it with medicine, without medicine, with diet control, other thing is very clear. From this angle, this particular picture would make a lot of sense for anyone who is trying to understand digestive system completely from stage 1 to 2 to 3rd to 4th level. At this particular juncture, India by and large is becoming a capital of diabetes mellitus in the world. So at this particular juncture, let me also tell you things which can straightway go to glucose, like your sugar, too much of rice, wheat, or anything which gets converted with a glycemic index very, very high. You should try to minimize and put other alternatives like millets into the thing which are slow to digestion and take longer time to get converted to glucose or fructose, and then move on with a much better. So keeping an eye on your diet control, the amount of protein which should be taken, amount of carbohydrate to be taken, amount of proteins to be taken, how it should be the balance. From my personal experience, which over a period I have experimented, let me at this particular juncture tell you the last report. I am nearing 73. 3 hours after fasting and taking breakfast, I took my blood test. It was exactly 111 milligram. I was very happy that things are like that. And of course, I do not suffer from any of the diseases, but I know thing which is happy is to understand how much of carbohydrate should I take, what are different kinds of carbohydrates should take, what is the complex should I take, what is the mixture should I take, what are the different combinations should I take. Over a period I've worked it out. Now I know a good combination of millets plus little rice plus little wheat and other more of fructose and fruits, etc., has helped me to make it the level I want. And I, day by day, I'm only saying there was a stage when I was saying you could prevent. Having prevented as one part, then curtail the aging was the second part which I gained. No, I'm talking of reverse the aging itself. I can see the difference. 15 years old back, I was looking older than what I'm looking today. Can you believe? 15 years later, I'm looking younger than what I was 15 years back. Can you believe that? But that is the reality. And it's only with the diet control, complex carbohydrates, selected ones, and doing things systematically as perfectly as possible. And I'm sharing all the information which I've gained over a period, one by one, for the benefit of glucose homeostasis, that everyone can do wonders, provided that. And particularly for me, it's the easiest thing because I come from the family where my brothers, all said and done, are suffering from diabetes. And I do not have a problem with my sisters or brothers. I am perfectly fine. And I think from that angle, it's very interesting. With the diet control, lifestyle changes, and doing things properly, you can do wonders, keeping Divyank Ratio, Divyank Sequence in mind, and move on put together. Now, having spoken about perfect human anatomy, of digestive system in the mouth, and of course, physiology, and of course, biochemistry, now let's go on to the third stage of psychology. And this is where I say Tantra Vidya is nothing but psychology. But as I've been telling you, 10 stages of glucose synthesis, 10 stages everywhere. Here is also 10 stages. And once you understand that, move on with that. I can assure you, you'll have no problem whatsoever. Having done that, let me tell you, I've really enjoyed it. I've experienced, and I can tell you, anyone who's doing things systematic the way I've explained, understood whole thing, you will have no problem whatsoever of diabetes or hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia or any other problem with respect to diabetes or anything of that connected. This information of today's is primarily projected for the benefit of people who are suffering from diabetes all around the world. This is what it is, and I'm a pure vegetarian. I do not take non-vegetarian, and that's it. So from that angle, let me put it, it was wonderful sharing my experience with a kind of knowledge, keeping Divyank Ratio sequence infinity in mind, and giving the perfect, my own experience for the benefit of others. Let's move on and build on with that. So thank you very, very much.